Move on now to a discussion of the cease and desist order at the cell tower. And I know that the agenda calls for adjourning the public meeting and then doing executive session. I don't know that we need to do executive session tonight. I think, we are not really going to talk about legal strategy, and that would be the reason to do that. So unless you see a need to go into executive session, then
I'm fine.
Then I would make a motion with just do we need a motion for that, or can we just?
I think because it's an alteration of the agenda, I think it probably would be wise to do that.
Okay, well then I would make a motion that we just discuss the cease and desist order at this time in the agenda and not do executive session tonight.
I'll second that motion.
Steve Smith,
Good morning.
In favor.
Sorry, I'm just looking for the revised.
Perfect. Okay, so let's kind of have a discussion about this order. And sometimes when a lot has happened, and it's been roughly 2 years since I think that all of this came up. I know I've been at these meetings for 6 months. We have heard a lot of evidence from many scientists. The residents have come in, shared their stories, their testimony, and so I'd like to start with what I know to be true. So for me anyway, it's how I kind of process things. So if we could just start there and know what we know to be true. We know the 2 years, we know the scientists we've all spoken with, Ken Chamberlain, the physicians that we've spoken with, the David Carpenter, Paul Heroux, Sharon Goldberg. I've had conversations with all of them. We've received 3 letters from a physician who evaluated a family, 3 people living in underneath that cell tower, and basically, with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, they felt that those symptoms were connected to the cell tower. We have other residents that have come in stating symptoms. We have the state now saying it's going to become an emerging issue, and we have our mandate as a Board of Health to be protective of people in our community, not just whether it be one person. I looked to see exactly what our regulations said. And the focus of public health is to protect the health of every member of a community. And that was something that was updated in 2006, and it's in our legal mandate as a board. So I don't know what else there is to do. On February 2nd, we issued and agreed on a cease and desist order. At the time, we have some history with cease and desist orders, but they would have not been compelling enough for us to move in that direction. So we took some time to be thoughtful and met with our counsel, our city solicitor, who then said we need to do an executive session and talk about the process and what we're doing, which we did on February 23rd. At that point, we talked about kind of lining up what we would do. We had a very strong cease and desist order that had been drafted by a few other attorneys that were interested in helping. We reviewed the cease and desist order, and then in March, one of those attorneys came in and spoke with us in executive session. I don't think you were here at that meeting, Steve.
Right.
So, based on some of that conversation, the cease and desist order was updated. And we decided, again, to try to line up, to look at some of the financials. I think, Brad, you had mentioned some of the cost-benefit analysis and the legality of this and what Verizon is going to do. I know the recommendation was to plan for every possible scenario and see if we can get a budget around it and then go to the council. And so I've done a lot of that legwork, and we looked, we met with the attorneys, we looked at a proposed budget for everything that could possibly happen and tried to put a dollar amount to that. The next step was to go to the council, but we couldn't go to the council until we met with the mayor, and honestly, it's been very difficult to get an appointment with the mayor, and we've been trying for quite a while. So I feel like I'm at a point where we issue the cease and desist order.
So I want to understand that, though. And I want to be clear here. So this isn't about, we would not have agreed, and we voted on, to issue a cease and desist order. So the underlying reasons for the cease and desist order, there is consensus. There
Agreed.
is no debate. So
Right.
that has never, so I want to get on the record, things like courage and all that kind of
Right,
language
right,
is
right.
nonsense, actually.
Right, we
So
believe
this is-
that was the true
so
action.
It was, but we will be doing a tremendous disservice to those that are most aggrieved if we do not have a council, a plan to implement the cease and desist order, revenue to support council, legal counsel is what I'm talking about, and because if this could be a pretty arduous process, it's novel. It could go, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that it could even possibly end up in the Supreme Court. So my thought has always been that we can't just, put it out there and hope for the best. We have to make sure that we are well-positioned, because otherwise, we're not going to get multiple bites at the apple. We get one bite at the apple, probably. And then if we fail, it will be a pretty colossal failure, first and foremost for the people that are aggrieved, but also for the community as a whole, but both in terms of what it could mean for the community if there are any similar issues, and fiscally, because there's provisions within the nuisance statute that we cite that empowers us to issue a cease and desist. And if we were to lose in court, that the other party can look to recover damages and costs, which I have no idea what those are. I don't know what the monthly revenue is on a tower. I know none of those things. And these are all the kind of things that we should know that are part of our due diligence to move this forward. And I'm not, and it's a process, and what makes the process tough, it would be tough in any circumstance, but we're dealing with it within a bureaucratic setting, and that makes it even more challenging. And this isn't, because I can only imagine the work that you've been doing in between, because I know there's been a lot of work going into this. But I also just want to make sure that if we're saying, okay, I'm ready to move forward and issue, what does that mean? Like, who is our counsel? Because our counsel isn't the same counsel that the aggrieved parties have, because our interests are consistent for the most part, but they may not always be consistent.
So you're talking about the solicitor?
I'm talking, well, I don't know, to me, in our conversations, the city solicitor was not in a position to serve in that role. So we need, counsel from outside the city solicitor's office.
That's correct. That is correct.
And we need to have that identified. We need to have, we're not empowered as a board to enter into a contract with, it's the city that enters into a contract with council, outside council. So those are all the kind of things that I need to better understand. So for folks that are looking at us from the outside and not understanding the complexity involved in just trying to move that part forward, I can see how that could be frustrating. But those are real things that we have to figure out.
Yeah, I understand that, but our mandate is to protect the health of the people in Pittsfield. We all agreed that was an issue. The challenge in trying to figure out what Verizon is going to do at this point is near impossible. We have a strong order with attorneys that are willing to support us in that. We have no idea what, all that we're asking by the order is for Verizon to come to a hearing. And I don't think that's unreasonable, given the fact that for 2 years now, we've been listening to residents come in. We have a physician saying something is wrong here. We have good science out there that's saying that these symptoms are similar and are possibly based on exposure to non-ionizing radiation. We have all of this information, and our challenge is not to worry about the legal side of it or how much it's going to cost or all of that. you know, we put a strong cease and desist order together, which we believe in, which is truthful, which is what we've learned over the past 2 years. This is what the council asked us to do. They said, figure this out, and we did, but you know what? Nobody likes the answer. I have my cell phone. I use it all the time. When the regulations were written in 1996, I don't even know if I had a cell phone. A lot has changed since then, you know, and I don't want to tackle the FCC, or I don't want to make this bigger than this community, but for these people, I feel like my obligation is to issue the order and then step by step and process by process figure out what we do. So we say, Verizon, you come to a hearing. They may not come, they might come. Wouldn't it be good if they came? It would be one of the smartest things they could do. They came into a hearing and sat with us and told us why it's okay to leave the tower up. I would love for them to tell us that. And I feel like it's my obligation to move forward with this. You know, we are not going to have all the answers going into this. We are not going to know. And you know what? The good news is that we can stop at any step along the way. I spoke with Cheryl Sabara at the State Board of Health Association. She's an attorney. And obviously she can't give us advice, and she said that, I can't give you advice. But, you know, your only option is to issue the order. You can stop at any time. We've spent no money so far, no resources, except our time and our understanding of this. And I honestly feel like we have enough evidence. You know what, if this were a gas station who was polluting a small area, we would say, stop it, and you come in and tell us why you think you can do this. But because it's Verizon, all of a sudden, we feel like we can't do that. And you know what? I think we've got a strong order. I think it's our mandate. And I think we issue it and see what they say.
I mean, I guess my concern is, and I don't remember the legal term this time, Brad, but the preemption, right? So we could issue the order, and Verizon could be like, you know, not interested in coming to the table. They could go and get it shot down in state court and say it's a federal issue. Is that how that process works?
I mean, any of those things are possible. So like, I mean, we've been presented with options and legal theories, and also we've been talked, you know, just to get it out there, that when we've talked to council and they've mentioned different potential causes of action, whether they be under the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, or Fair Housing Act. You know, one of the things I asked them about, because I'm just trying to really test the validity of these theories, which I think have some merit, was that why hasn't anyone brought a private cause of action? Why hasn't any of the aggrieved parties brought a private cause of action? And they said, well, the cost would be prohibitive for them. That's you know, we talked about that. And I said, well, both of those laws, both those statutes have fee shifting provisions, which means if you prevail, the other party, in this case Verizon, would have to pay your legal fees. And they said they did not want to take that risk. So it's just something that resonates with me, because we're saying as a community that we will assume that risk. So if it's so compelling, you know, that you know, gives me a little, if it was so compelling, you know, it's something that I think they would have moved forward on. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, but I would feel a heck of a lot better knowing I have under contract and that attorney that is representing us through this process, an attorney that is sitting in through the administrative proceeding, if they so choose Verizon to participate.
And that will unfold. That will unfold based on what happens. I feel like I believe the people. I believe that this is true and this is happening to them. And I don't like feeling like we have to have every question answered before we go into this, because I don't think we can. We don't know what they're going to do. All we're asking them to do is come to a hearing. I don't think that's too much to ask, quite honestly.
I don't, that not at all. I mean, you know, that's not my concern. You know that.
Yes, it's me being very simplistic in it. And yes, I realize that you know, that they may not do that. And they may then decide that they're going to go to the state, or file a federal injunction to make our order null and void. There's a million different avenues that they could take. The smart one would be for them to show up. But I'm not sure that they're going to do that. And I feel like I have an obligation to not worry so much about the legality and the finances of how this unfolds, and having all of those steps together, which is what I've been doing, trying to put all those steps together. And it will never happen. It will never happen. We will never come to an agreement with that. My strength, my ability right now is to say I believe in the people in that community, that they're being harmed somehow. I don't know what's going on, but it's in line with all the scientific evidence out there. A physician who, anybody else who came in who had a physician say with 3 letters that something was wrong there, we to pay attention to. The caveat here is that it's Verizon, so we're not willing to do that. And I think that our authority is not any of the other things except to say, do we have a problem in this neighborhood? Yes or no? And that's what we're saying. We think we have a problem in this neighborhood. So I know it's an uncomfortable situation to be in, because I feel like we have a responsibility, and at every point our hands have been tied. It's been 6 weeks since we decided that we were going to issue the order. It took quite a few weeks to actually find a couple of attorneys who would even help us to get this order on paper. We have a really good order on paper. Those attorneys are willing to represent us for whatever would happen. And at any point, we can say, stop.
Yeah, but we have to pay these attorneys. I mean, I'm not.
We will know that. We will know that before we go into it. Our action is just to decide whether or not we think that these people are in harm's way.
What do you mean we're gonna know that about the?
Well, the order as it's written says Verizon Wireless and Farley White South are hereby ordered to show cause why the Board of Health should not issue an order requiring cessation in operation at the facility pursuant to the Board of Health statutory and historical police power. So within 7 days, we will know what they're going to do, whether they're going to come to a hearing, and then at our discretion, we can plan that. We can decide what the cost is going to be to that, who the experts are we bring to that.
When you say decide, you mean someone will tell us?
We will have that attorney.
The attorney that says, I'm gonna represent you guys, and here's my fee.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yep. And then at that
fee,
point, yes.
That fee is the board, we're hiring this attorney, is that right?
It usually
We,
is.
the board?
We would go to the council, and we would request at that level.
We would
for
request
support.
that fee from the city council.
Correct. But we have no idea what that is. They may not decide to come to a meeting. They may decide to go to the State House and file an injunction that will come with a certain action on our part, at
And
which
then
point
if that
then.
happens, sorry,
Yeah.
if that happens, am I right in a guess that we would hire an attorney to battle that injunction, and then we'd have to go to the city council to get approval for that
I mean, I think we should
fee?
have an attorney advising us for the show cause, if they request a show cause, which
They would do,
agree
and
be a
they
good
would
thing.
do that, and they would do that. You know, the attorney that we spoke with at the last executive session is the one who drafted with That's Robert Berg.
Yeah.
Robert Berg.
Yeah, he's excellent. I mean,
Is the attorney that drafted that, along with Andrew Rayner, who is well-known in the state of Massachusetts.
who's executing the retainer with them? Who's doing all this stuff, though? Like, I'm just,
We're not ready to do that yet. Our job is not to, right now, do all that. Our job is right now to decide whether or not we have I believe strongly that our purview is really to kind of focus on the public health side of this, and then follow on step by step. Once we know what Verizon is going to do, then take the next step, and we work in that direction, but to try to get it all done ahead of time with anticipation of any way that this could go and cost all of that out.
I do wonder if we can do, this is not on the video, people are zooming in on it, but, could we do that first little chunk that he's given sort of an estimated hour amount for the first step? Could we get that on board? And allocate it before doing this?
In order to do that, you know what, we can't go to the council until we go to see the mayor, and we have not been able to get a meeting on the books with the mayor. We have one coming up, but it was really difficult to make that happen. So I get a sense that,
what if we did and again, I know no one's gonna be happy, but I'm not here to appease people, I'm here to get it right. So, what if it was conditioned on getting, that we were gonna get an allocation, and that we say we're gonna issue upon allocation of some amount to support.
we could have said that 6 weeks ago, Brad.
But I mean, but we.
6 weeks ago, we didn't know
like,
this all of these scenarios. We didn't have Robert Berg.
Yeah, well,
That was
6
just 2
weeks,
weeks
in
ago.
some way, when we talked about issuing a cease and desist order, in some ways, in not understanding all the legalese of all of what was gonna happen, we could have just issued the order. But Andy, we would have had to write a really strong order that we could not write ourselves. So
Right, so that's why it took
couldn't.
the extra time to get it right. So I feel like if that's what we need to do to get this next step right.
Even so what was it, 2 days ago, we got the most updated order. So,
Correct.
Right, so I just wanted to think about that for a second, so just the logic of that, right? So even when we thought we had a good order before, 2 days ago, we got a better order.
Right, because I asked, because you had some things that you wanted cleaned up.
Yep.
So that's what we got.
So, but so I'm not, again, fundamentally, I think we're all in the same place relative to, this is a health issue that we desperately want to address.
It's a public health issue, Brett, that's feeling very political, quite honestly.
Yeah,
And it is,
but I
and
don't-
it is.
I'm
And
not
that is.
worried about that as much as,
But that is why there's a separation between boards of health and municipalities.
but we still have to rely on the municipality.
We
to
do,
grant
because
us.
we all work together, and we're part of the city of Pittsfield, but our obligation in that is Board of Health and, a health determination. I spoke with the ward counselor, Jim Conant, and he said, do what you're supposed to do. And it's like, okay, I think we need to do what we're supposed to do, and then at any point, if it doesn't work, we can't afford it, we don't get funding for it,
Right.
we back off. But you know what? I feel like we've worked darn hard to get this far. And we have a great order. And it is gonna, I cannot imagine, given the challenge at hand.
I'm just not a subscriber of the, legal theory of hope for the best, because I want counsel. I would, just like I would make fun, I literally when I do mediations or arbitration.
Brad, we are not going into a meeting like this, a hearing without counsel. We can't do it. That would end us right there if we did not have counsel.
Essentially, if we did the cease and desist order and then we can't get a meeting with the mayor or get approval for the funding for an attorney, then we are going into a meeting without counsel. Because we don't have the capacity to hire.
Well, we withdraw the cease and desist order. That's what we do.
I'm thinking
You know?
this procedurally, I mean, we withdraw without prejudice, which means that we can bring it again if we wanted to.
Like I said, I'm not saying, I'm not buying into the, I think we get so confused with all of
Yeah.
what could be, what could happen, how are we
Right.
gonna pay for it, that we lose track of what we're supposed to do. And I feel like I can't do that. I've been trying to do all this other stuff, and it's not working. We have a really good order. If we let it go, and then we try to get some funding, we keep trying to get the funding, once we see what Verizon is gonna do, we will know, and then we take that next step. And if we can't get funding or can't make that next case, then we withdraw the order. But I think we need to at least do what we're supposed to do. That's just kind of my opinion. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm just gonna, I feel
I'm
like
not trying, I'm not being reckless.
No, I'm not saying that. I guess I would telegraph the only way I can feel like I can affirm this, and that would be to say that I would support an issuance of the cease and desist conditioned on there being legal counsel in place by the time there is an administrative or any other type of action.
I would totally support that.
Beyond the issuance.
That is totally reasonable, because that is the only way we're gonna be able to do that.
Can you say it again?
Yeah, so I would support the issuance of the cease and desist conditioned upon retaining counsel prior to any administrative hearing or judicial hearing.
So the order could still go this week.
Yeah, I mean, but it's gonna trigger all those things very quickly. So
Yeah.
I'm just, my gut tells me,
Can you say it one more time, though?
yeah, I can. Maybe it'll make me feel better. I would say that I'm telegraphing what I'm thinking in terms of supporting it, and it would be that I would support the issuance of a cease and desist conditioned on us having counsel, legal counsel, prior to any administrative or judicial hearing. So embedded in that, I should be more express, actually, that we would withdraw it if we don't have that.
Well, that's
Okay, so
precisely
that's
what you're saying,
yeah.
but that's what you're
But I wasn't doing
saying,
a good
right?
job.
No, you
Thank you.
were. You were doing a great job. I just needed to hear it again.
You know what? That holds true to what our mission is. That says we are worried, and we think, we've done a lot of homework. We think these people in harm's way, we're doing what we can, and that is what we can. And if we're not going to get the support that we need, then we withdraw that order.
There's no,
There's,
right.
yeah, I mean, we can't,
right. It's almost like an automatic thing anyway,
Right.
because
right.
it would die somewhere,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Yes.
You're just, it seems like you're making it express
Yeah,
in
I'm just
the
saying, like,
motion.
I mean,
Right.
this is, but
Right.
so we have.
But
to-
I don't mean to interrupt, but it's such an interesting discussion to me, and I'm kind of quiet the whole time, I know, but we want to do our best to protect, right? We have to. That's our mandate.
That's what our mandate is.
Right. And so we want to do our best to protect in the very best way we can. Otherwise, we're not protecting. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say. It's like if we just went ahead and wrote our own cease and desist, it would have been over and
It would have been
done.
over in a minute. Done.
And so, I think we got to keep continuing to do our very best. And, yeah, and I support what you said. I'm sorry, I was really, what's the word there? Just going off there.
Out
Sorry
loud.
about thinking out loud there, sorry.
It's been.
Good
it's-
recap, yeah.
It's been a really complicated process, and when the council sent it to us, that was before me being here, and you've done a lot of work on this before I even came on board. And the council sent it to us to figure it out, and
Right.
gosh, we did. We spent a lot of time figuring it out. So
So-
now we're ready to go with the great order. We have attorneys who are willing to support it. We let it go.
So would this be a motion, the way
So
you put it?
It would be, so we've already we've already said that, you know, we were gonna issue a cease and desist, so this would be an amendment to that initial order, which would say that we're going to issue it forthwith with the condition that we withdraw it without prejudice if we do not retain legal counsel prior to any administrative or judicial hearing.
Correct.
I second that motion.
Is that your motion?
No.
You've said it 50 times now.
So, it would be a modification or amendment to the original order to issue a cease and desist, which would state as follows, that we will issue the cease and desist forthwith with the condition that we, I will say may, withdraw it
Without
without
prejudice.
prejudice if we are unable to retain legal counsel prior to any administrative or judicial proceeding.
Yep. You got that, Stephanie?
Was that motion
So is that
just
motion made? Did you make that
That
motion?
motion.
Can you state that one more time for the record?
Let's just roll the tape back for crying.
Will not.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Do I have all in favor?
Oh, do I, is this a
Yeah,
roll
let's do- we
call?
do need to do a roll
Steve
call.
Smith in favor of the motion.
I'm clearly no, Brad Gordon in favor of it.
Kim Loring in favor.
Bobby Dorsey in favor. Okay. So then, Andy, that order will be issued forthwith. So you can send that to Verizon.
Okay. Does it, do we need to do any signatures on that, or?
What do you typically, I imagine you do, so,
Normally the board would sign it.
Each of
Okay.
us,
Yeah.
okay.
the
well,
cease
then
and desist?
Yep.
So maybe we could have a signatory page and we can.
Do that.
Yeah, like if you put
Right.
it together, we can just drop in like in the next day or so and
Yep.
sign it or something. Does that
So-
work for
I
you?
can come in
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yep, and I can come in to sign it.
I can too.
So if we can just sign it, it'd be great if we
Email
could
us.
Yeah.
get it out by Friday. And,
And it goes into effect of when they receive it?
7 days from the day they receive it.
Should, okay.
And we have a meeting with the mayor on the 13th, so that's perfect.
Perfect.
And should we meet again regardless after the 7 days?
Yes.
To discuss,
I think so. That's really the only way we can talk about it
right,
together.
I mean, yeah, because I don't want 7 days to go by and then like, oh, well,
Yep.
we didn't hear back from anybody, or we did hear back from someone.
Yes, we should. Yeah, we'll
So we
wanna
should
keep
set
this,
a tentative date?
And keep everybody informed.
I
with
don't know
that.
if there's, so enforcement under that, like, so if they, so they could choose to just ignore it, which I don't think they'll do, because I just don't see them doing that as a corporate entity like that. They could choose to request a hearing, which they may do.
Mhm.
They could try to go right into federal court and seek an injunction of some sort. I don't know. And I don't know, I guess there's probably fines that go with the nuisance statute. I don't know it deeply, so that would be de minimis, so not major fines, but,
Could be.
so,
That's interesting.
yeah.
So, we kind of have a general range from the attorneys around what the fee structure may be for different things, which is gonna be kind of all up in the air. But I guess, we make this step forward, and then we find resources to pay for counsel.
Mhm.
It's a defensible cease and desist order,
Yeah.
and it's, I think, what we can do now.
So should we set a date now to just meet up?
Sure.
So
Sure.
that we can know?
Already have a couple night meetings next week.
Yeah, because they probably won't get it till the 13th, if it goes out Friday. So looking around like the
So
20th.
if it goes out Friday, the first day they get it will probably be the 11th. Will you hand deliver it? How do you do them?
I not even sure where it's gonna go, but, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. If we could get the attorney to start.
So why don't you
Thank you.
send us a note when it goes? Send us a copy of the order and just send us a note and we can
Yeah,
just
that'd be good.
organize it by email,
Yeah,
by
yeah.
email.
That,
that
that
makes
way,
sense.
yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, maybe the week of the 20th, right? Which is actually really, I'm very flexible
That week of the 20th.
That week of the 18th is Monday.
Okay.
That
Is that
entire
vacation week
week.
or something?
Yeah, it is, yeah, exactly. So that whole week, I'm
My
pretty
wife's a
flex, pretty
principal.
good.
I could probably only do the Wednesday night, sorry to
Uh-huh.
say, the 20th.
I'm looking at that right now.
4:20?
So just so ahead of time.
At
just make it
6,
easy.
yeah.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
let's see. Yeah, if we had a meeting on the 20th, I could. do
Yeah,
that.
I think it
So
would just
let's
be a
just-
special meeting for the
Yeah,
follow-up
yeah.
on this.
Yeah,
Very good.
Yeah, I could do that.
So I want to, first of all, thank you all for your help and your due diligence with this. It was a very challenging, and will continue to be challenging, I think, but I think we made the right decision for the people in that neighborhood and for our mandate.
I agree, 100%.
So I will then entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the April Board of Health meeting, April 2022.
Yeah, second that.
Do you have to say names?
I think we
Are
have
we
to
still,
say
we're
names.
still roll calling?
Yeah, I think we are roll calling for.
Okay, roll call.
Well, I was the
You, yeah.
person who.
All in favor, name, yeah.
Yes.
Hodgepodge.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned. Good night, Pittsfield.